Pour one out for a homie. Destiny's career may finally be over, and no amount of Vyvanse will help him prance his way out of this one. New allegations are surfacing involving multiple women, and now a new mystery woman, just kidding, it's Cherry, is claiming Destiny non consensually recorded an intimate act without her knowledge, and the left wing political YouTube sphere is on fire. Not So Erudite and Dan are running defense, or just behaving in the best interest of Pixie, depending on your point of view.
When people are looking at the texts that I'm sending back and forth with Pixie, they're getting like a very clip-chimped version of the exchange.
When we talked, she was just like asking for advice, and Destiny would probably be upset because I did like the opposite of sweeping.
Turkey Tom is finally legally filed for divorce from Destiny.
From what I've seen, Destiny, Erudite.
Mr. Girl has come out of the woodwork to do his victory lap and is now fighting with Dan on voice calls.
What do you mean, unlike me? Why are you saying I didn't reach out to Pixie?
Because when you reached out, you were just doing it trying to destroy Destiny. When I reached out to Pixie, I was doing it to try and fucking help her.
Hassan is having the best week of his fucking life.
I rarely ever cover Destiny on this broadcast, but this is moving beyond the point of like petty drama or whatever into criminal liability.
And every orbiter in existence is having struggle sessions where they alternatively sweep and condemn Destiny in an undulating pattern that none of them can fully understand. Oh, and Destiny finally responded to the allegations. There's a lot to talk about here. I made a brief video on this a few days ago right after the Pixie lawsuit was filed, but a lot has happened since then, so I've done a deep dive into the various facets of these issues. We'll be going through the Kiwi Farm leaks that started it all, the woman affected, Destiny, how he responded, and how all of the key players in this space have been spiraling in their own idiosyncratic way. I'll be attempting to summarize and condense this entire situation, and through the course of my research of this video, I have seen things no man should ever see. So please like and subscribe, because with what these eyes have seen, I deserve it, okay? Let's get into it. This story begins where every horrible internet story does. Kiwi Farms, a site specializing in doxing and harassment. On November 29th, a user named Solo posted on a site claiming he had access to a girl only known by the handle Rose, a 19-year-old ethot who Solo claims was underage at the time of her interactions with Destiny. Though I don't believe Solo is a reliable narrator, and there's no way to verify this. At the very least, even Solo isn't claiming that Destiny knew she was underage, just that she was underage, and Destiny should have been more careful with age verification before engaging with her in a carnal way. Either way, Solo gained access to Rose's Discord and leaked every intimate video that Destiny had shared with her, which was a lot of intimate videos. It is unclear whether Rose was hacked by Solo, or quite possibly Solo and Rose are the same person. We have nothing to identify Solo's identity or location or anything. Solo claims Rose gave him access to her Discord account and that Rose is apathetic to anything being leaked. But again, we're trusting a random Kiwi Farms user who is clearly a malicious, unhinged person. These leaks included videos of multiple people engaging in carnal acts with one another, including Destiny, Melina, possibly Nick Fuentes, a girl named Straighteraid, and a few others who at the time were not identified. However, Kiwi Farms being the cesspool of autistic haters with way too much free time on their hands that it is, it only took a few mere hours for people to identify two characteristic freckles on a girl in one of the videos and match those freckles and what can be seen of the face to Pixie, the political content creator who is now suing Destiny over these very leaks. Of course, people instantly began harassing Pixie with this information, who quickly privated her socials, though they're back online now, as well as harassing other women who became identified. I won't be mentioning their names as they're not broadly known yet, and they aren't a part of any lawsuits currently, but there are multiple women affected by this. A few things to note. Solo would almost certainly face heavy criminal charges and definitely civil suits if he was identified. If he's telling the truth and Rose was fine with the leaks and gave him access to her Discord, she is likely also liable. Kiwi Farms itself may also be liable for hosting and continuing to host what constitutes revenge porn. In Destiny's response, which we will soon get to, he mentions pursuing litigation against multiple parties. This is almost certainly Solo, possibly Rose, and quite likely also Kiwi Farms. Destiny, of course, could be liable for sending these things to Rose in the first place, although probably not, as we'll get into later. The point is, there are a lot of guilty parties here with varying degrees of culpability and also a lot of victims. And while people might not also want to admit this, without trying to get sympathy for Destiny, he is also technically one of the victims here, as it was his stuff that also leaked. So he can be both a perpetrator and a victim, and it's undeniable that he was the primary target of the revenge porn in this instance, with a bunch of people ending up getting caught in a crossfire. There was a lot of talk behind the scenes between Pixie and Destiny, as well as Pixie and Not So Erudite, Destiny's close friend, business partner, and Bridges podcast co-host, with the ostensible goal of keeping these leaks from becoming more public. Pixie was incredibly suicidal over all of this, and has a history of suicidality previous to this, and both Not So Erudite and Destiny spoke multiple times with the stated goal of making things right. This is, of course, contested as personal interests and ethical interests quickly become intermingled. Obviously, Destiny and Erudite have a vested interest in keeping things on the down low and not having this spread into a massive issue. But I, unlike a lot of others, don't think this definitely means their intention was solely business-minded. I personally believe at least Erudite did care for Pixie and wanted to make sure she's okay, though others seem to disagree with this stance. Despite their talks, Pixie decided to go public, launching a lawsuit and a fundraiser to pay for it. I made a previous video detailing the lawsuit and Pixie's statements on that, so I won't revisit it in detail, but I'll link in the description if you missed it. This whole situation was becoming increasingly muddled in the background, with DMs from Pixie and Erudite leaking to President Sunday, a controversial figure in the broader YouTube left-wing politics sphere. Pixie didn't consent to these DMs going to Sunday, and Erudite didn't either, so I honestly am not sure how he got them, but he did, and now they're public. Some people interpret these DMs as an attempt to convince Pixie into silence, including commentary YouTuber Turkey Tom, someone who has previously been close to Destiny, meeting up in real life on multiple occasions and doing multiple streams together. This led to Erudite reaching out to Turkey Tom with the intent of clearing her role in this. They spoke for around 2 hours, and Erudite showed multiple messages of her and Pixie, with Pixie's permission, which did seem, to my mind, and to Tom's, to clear Erudite of the charge of maliciously trying to silence Pixie.
Like, when you have somebody who's going through a trauma, and this is like what I also told her, like, if you're going through this, like, you get to steer the ship. Like, one of the biggest things of betrayal is that somebody took away consent from you. So you get to steer the ship. If you want to stay private, we stay, like, I take your lead from that. If you want to go public, I'm going to follow up with you and say, like, what do you feel comfortable with me saying? What do you want me to talk about? She gets to steer the ship. Like, I don't know, it's just frustrating because I'm like, I guess, like, you can ask Pixie, but, like, I can even look for DMs. It's like the opposite is true. I not only, like, wasn't pressuring her to be quiet, I was explicitly not pressuring her to do anything except for whatever she would like to do.
Based on all the messages I've seen, it doesn't seem like you were pressuring her to stay quiet. Yeah.
It does seem like it's worth giving Erudite the benefit of the doubt here, despite the obvious conflicts of interest in her wanting to both care for Pixie and be a friend and business partner with Destiny. From everything that can be seen and all the interactions shown, there simply isn't evidence that Erudite tried to silence Pixie. Is it possible that she's just being sneaky by ostensibly caring about Pixie, but in the background trying to manipulate her into not going public? Yes. It's possible, but this would be pure speculation, and a leaked DM simply do not show that. The conversation ends on a bittersweet note, with Tom being willing to accept that Erudite didn't act maliciously, but also thinking that she should drop Destiny as a friend and business partner.
And so I guess when you say, like, you can't take me seriously, I guess I'm just like, I don't know how to take that. Like, do you basically think that, like, everyone should disavow Destiny? Like, should he be basically fully canceled? Do you think, like, even though I've done like, my entire orientation with him behind the scenes has been like, I can give you receipts of this as well from, like, way back in the day where I was, like, messaging him, like, telling him he was wrong.
I don't know. I guess it's just like, to me, it's like, how do you take someone seriously as a political commentator when, like, he's unconsensually sending people's news around? I guess I find it hard to take someone seriously in that position.
Erudite disagrees, but this is just a matter of opinion.
I think that's fair, right? But this is like, can you trust his political content going forward? Which is valid. I think that's probably an important business question for us to, like, answer. But I don't know, like, why that implicates my character.
Well, I mean, we work with him. Like, he is the reason why you exist. He's the whole reason for your, business partnership, for like Bridges podcast, like all of that shit is, like, because of him, right? Like,
I agree.
You're an extension of the Destiny community. The guy running the community is messaging e-girls from his community, nudes of other girls from his community.
I mean, I guess to go back to, like, your initial statement, which is like, I'm an extension of the community. I guess I don't like I have a podcast with him. I'm not an extension of Steven. I disagree with him regularly. When we have interpersonal disagreements, I handle it privately. It feels very icky to always be viewed as just, like, this, like, necessary extension of Steven. I don't like this idea that if I'm, like, friends with somebody, that means I'm, like, agreeing with all of his actions and behaviors. I think there are some things that are, like, non-negotiable, but I like acting like these things are, like, objectively agreed upon and that everyone just knows what these are, I think is pretty unfair.
I can respect that Erudite wants to stick by Steven's side despite what he's done. They've been long-term close friends, and I understand that she sees this as a grievous mistake, but not necessarily a friendship-ending mistake. People can, of course, disagree with this, but this seems fair to me at least. I don't think she's a bad person because she isn't willing to cut Steve off completely. We then move into Destiny's response, which took the form of a carefully worded Reddit post that served to infuriate people more than it helped. I think it's important to read this post with the context of a lawsuit in mind. This post would, of course, have to be vetted by Destiny's legal team, and therefore there's some things he simply cannot state without legally implicating himself. Now, perhaps this is convenient for Destiny, as he can simply get away with a bit of a lukewarm response, or perhaps he feels legitimately kneecapped in what he can say. Maybe he wishes to be more transparent and apologetic, but this just isn't possible given the context of active litigation. We just don't know. I will put Destiny's response on screen, so feel free to pause and read it, but I will summarize the salient points and read out the parts I think are important. Destiny mainly focuses on the leaks from Solo and doesn't take personal responsibility, instead shifting the focus onto his own victimization. He then explains his silence on the topic in a fourfold way. His first reason is that he's pursuing both criminal and civil litigation against multiple parties, which is almost certainly Solo, assuming Kiwi Farms is subpoenaed and he can get his IP address, possibly Rose, and possibly Kiwi Farms themselves. Based on him saying multiple parties and the obvious fact that Solo himself would definitely be a defendant, he was the alleged hacker, he extorted Destiny, admitted to doing so on the Kiwi Farm threads, that leaves either Rose, Kiwi Farms itself, or both as the multiple parties part of things. His second point is that speaking about this would bring more attention to the victim. This is certainly true, but also is convenient because it meant less people know about this. There's no way for me to ascertain how much his motive was keeping the victim safe and covering his own ass. It's probably a mix of A and B, to be honest. His third point is that he's been trying to move on from covering drama. I think this is bullshit, and is clearly disproven by how much he continues to perseverate on every single action Hassan takes. If this situation happened to Hassan, I 100% think Destiny would be covering it, so this seems like the weakest point. His last point is Pixie's suicidality through all this, and her directly stating she would take her own life if this all came to light. This is similar to the second reason in that it's probably true, but also convenient as it gives him an out for not talking about it. And just like with point 2, I don't think I'm able to properly evaluate his motives and know how much was self-protection and how much was Pixie protection. He then goes on to detail how Pixie didn't want attention brought to this. He shares 3 DMs, one which shows Pixie wondering if Destiny is friends with Keemstar to see if he can get any talk of the leaks removed from the Drama Alert Twitter page, and 2 DMs which show Pixie asking him to not confirm to anyone privately that it's her in the video. He then goes on to bring up Lauren De Laguna, an ex-Orbiter lawyer who used to appear on Destiny's stream sometimes. He says Lauren is the one who set up the legal fundraiser for Pixie and implies that she's providing legal counsel to her as well. He needlessly asserts that Lauren hates him because he rejected her romantically earlier last year, which seems irrelevant even if it's true. It changes nothing and just seems to try to be an attempt to reframe this as a personal vendetta, which it might be on Lauren's part, but to my mind that doesn't really matter and isn't salient. He then talks about Pixie's mental health state and provides DMs indicating her plans to unalive herself should this stuff go public, presumably to buttress his fourth point that we looked at earlier. He then brings up his interactions with both Pixie and Straighter Age, showing how he tried to remedy the situation, but that Pixie seemed to want an impossible amount of money, despite also asserting Pixie never made any specific requests for any specific amounts of money. He shares the DMs we went over in the last video, which showed Destiny offering financial compensation for any bills and financial stresses that Pixie may have. What we didn't see last time was Pixie's response, which Pixie deleted. And I quote, "I feel like whatever I ask you to cover will be too high a price." Destiny then shows DMs between him and Straighter Ed, which show Pixie has been throwing around the idea in her head of him paying for her entire tuition to law school. Destiny then concludes with saying he has heard from others that she was thinking of asking in the ballpark of $500,000 to $1 million. As to where she heard this from, this seems to be Erudite, who said in the Turkey Tom conversation she had that Pixie had said this over the phone.
Specifically, when I started hearing, so I think at this point we've had a phone call maybe once or twice, and I start hearing the $1 million amount, and I'm not comfortable with that. I don't think that's going to give her anything that she's looking for. I know that she's never going to receive it. I don't think that that's like a good direction for her to go, if I'm being honest.
Of course, Destiny would never pay $1 million, and this request puts a bit of a bad kind of taste on the whole thing. Destiny focuses on this to end his statement by saying it seems Pixie wants to punish him financially, which is what was shown in the Erudite and Tom call and later is shown in Destiny's message. People can interpret this in one or two ways. Either Pixie is looking for a massive, unrealistic payout, or she's just in free fall and not thinking clearly. I think we can charitably see this as just her being mentally unwell and not thinking straight. I don't think she's doing this just for money or anything, though the situation would undeniably come across a lot cleaner if she wasn't asking for hundreds of thousands to $1 million of restitution. Personally, I think what Erudite outlined as compensation seems more sane to me.
What do you think is like adequate restitution for this kind of thing? Just kind of your personal opinion, I guess.
What I told Steven so this isn't, just to be clear, this is what I did to Steven just between him and I, was specifically, I was like, you should pay for her therapy. You need to cover like all of the expenses that are like investigating the leak. And if she has any expenses regarding like clearing her images off the internet, if she has to pay for any like internet scrubbers or anything like that, you need to cover all of those costs. And if she comes to you with other costs that are going to be related to this, you need to cover them as well.
Okay.
The thing is, money can't fix this, and just wanting to punish Destiny fiscally seems unrealistic unless courts are involved, which they are now, but you can't put a cork back in this bottle. Destiny ends his statement by saying, "I do not believe I violated any laws." I actually think, as far as Pixie is concerned, he's actually right. A commenter on my last video brought this to my attention. Those leaks were from 2021, and the law that Pixie is citing, US Federal Code 15 USC 6851, came into effect in 2022. In fact, this law came into effect with the Violence Against Women Reauthorization Act of 2022. So while it's undeniable that what Destiny did was incredibly immoral, it is less clear if what he did was illegal. If this is the law he supposedly violated, but he did it before this was actually a law, then he didn't break that law. To my knowledge, you can't break a law that's not already in existence and then retroactively be charged under it. So while these images and videos were leaked by Solo only a few weeks ago, and he could be charged under this law and many other laws, Destiny in fact didn't leak these post 2022. But at the same time, we're learning new updates of other women who are coming forward, because the obvious question is, was this really the only time Destiny non-consensually shared stuff? Did it really only happen with one random girl whom he had never met before? I think the sensible answer is probably not. If he was willing to share multiple girls' videos and images non-consensually with someone he never met before, he's probably done this with a lot of people, and this is likely just the time he happened to get caught with it. But speaking of new allegations, the next biggest so far at the time of recording is a streamer and Destiny orbiter named Cherry, who tweeted that multiple people have told her that they have received recordings of her that were recorded against her consent. Leaking without consent is bad enough and not a good thing to do, but recording without consent is just a whole different animal. Now, it's just an allegation and we have to wait for more information to come out about it, but she did say she filed a police report, and so I don't know if that means that she did receive the recordings and has seen them, because I'd have to imagine to file a police report, you'd have to either somehow prove the recordings exist or have them on hand, but we'll have to wait for more information to develop on that front. We then get the whole gang back together. Everyone wants their one little piece of Destiny to take home with them. Hassan takes his pot shots at Destiny, as he has literally been waiting for this moment for years, as does Mr. Girl, who made a 100,000+ word manifesto trying to argue that Destiny was an abusive person who used his clout to sleep with women. This led to Mr. Girl, Lav, another person Destiny has slept with, who now hates him, who sided with Mr. Girl during his investigation, really kicked off the whole thing, and Dan, Destiny's close friend and co-host of Destiny's second podcast, Anything Else, all being on a streamer named Jstlk's panel along with a few others, some who are amicable to Destiny and some who are less amicable. The whole conversation was an absolute mess and devolves into various accusations of sweeping for Destiny by defending him.
Excuse me to be a white blood cell right now.
Excuse me. I am how in what way, shape, or form am I defending Destiny?
The defense is in giving toothless criticism that sounds like criticism, but it's not really.
Or reframing the situation.
But what I remember you saying is something like, well, if that happened, it's bad, but I don't know. Which is another version of, yes, Destiny's misbehaving. Yes, it's bad. If true.
No.
To allegations that those criticizing him are criticizing him for the wrong reasons.
Here in this instance, I am saying I have all reason to believe. I see the evidence right in front of me, the Discord logs. This thing happened. It is bad. You're doing exactly, you're doing exactly what Dan is saying that you're doing, which is, hey, I'm trying to bring up past situations to run your victory lap. I didn't even know you made that public post doing a fucking victory lap. Really weird, by the way, over an actual situation that happened. Very weird.
Or that they aren't criticizing him enough. It's generally devolving into personal attacks.
You only care about your fucking story. You want to drag down Pixie's very clear, very obvious shit where she was harmed and try to tie it to all of your obfuscated bullshit. Wow, Pixie is fine on her own. She doesn't need your bullshit weighing her down with a guy that's known online as a pedophile that has fucking videos of him like being insane to his wife fucking Shaylin.
So where does that leave us? Destiny's entire community, both orbiters and just normal viewers, are left wondering just how bad this will all get, how many women will it end up involving, and just how deep this rabbit hole goes. Everyone is divided between those who will remain in contact with Destiny, assuming he comes back, and those who will cut off friendships and relationships and stop watching him. If you watch Destiny, where does that leave you? Is what's come out enough for you to disavow him or stop watching? Or are you waiting for more information still? Let me know in the comments below.